Hey guys, it is Arlo with Battle Tested Book, and today we're going to look at medial and lateral epicondylitis. So that is golfer's elbow and tennis elbow. We will show you which one is which and where they hurt, and then get into a treatment plan based on my perspective as a massage therapist and strength and conditioning coach. So let's get after it. So medial epicondylitis is on the inside here. You have a bump on the humerus right here at the end of the bone called the medial epicondyle. And almost all of your forearm muscles on the flexor side, so the flexor, the wrist and finger flexors do this motion, fingers, wrist, right? So anytime you're grabbing something, you're working the flexors of the forearm, and they all attach via the common flexor tendon right here. So if you have really tight flexor muscles, overworked flexor muscles, a lot of times you'll start to develop pain right here on the medial epicondyle. That is where they all attach. And so if you're pulling on them, you're going to feel it right at the attachment. That tendon gets irritated and starts to accrue little micro tears and damage to the tendon there, and that is where you get your pain for medial epicondylitis or golfer's elbow. Lateral epicondylitis or tennis elbow is on the opposite side. So you have all of your extensor muscles which do this. So when my wrist pulls back, I'm extending the wrist. That's what the extensor muscles are. Most of the time, for most people, the extensor muscles are weaker than the flexor muscles, because we're always grabbing things, but we're not very often doing this motion and strengthening this motion, especially you guys who lift a lot. You're always grabbing and pulling rather than extending your forearm. So lateral epicondylitis, tennis elbow, is where the irritation is here instead. Sometimes that's because these are overworked, and a lot of times it's just a result of being weaker than the other side. So you have a strength imbalance, which there should be a little bit of a one, but it shouldn't be super, it shouldn't be really, really different. Like, you don't want this to be really weak and the other side to be really strong. So a lot of our treatment for both actually will be to strengthen the extensor muscles, because that's where most people have a deficiency. We'll also show you on bones here. So medial epicondyle is this right here, and that's where all of the flexor muscles attach. So when he flexes his wrist, that movement is created by the muscle attached here, shortening and pulling everything towards that point. Extensors, opposite. So right over here we have the lateral epicondyle, and all of the muscles that do this with the wrist are attached over there. So you have those two motions. Those are the 2 points where you'll develop the pain: the lateral epicondyle and medial epicondyle. All right, let's dive right into medial epicondylitis. So again, that's pain on the inside where all of your flexor muscles come and attach via the common flexor tendon. So most people have an imbalance where they are stronger on the flexor side and weaker on the extensor side, and that can cause problems on both epicondyles on both sides, both on the weak and the strong. But when the tissue here is hypertonic or super tight, basically it's tight all the time, so then it starts to cause problem because there's a constant tension here on the epicondyle, and you start to develop pain and tendon issues. But it is fine to be ridiculously strong here. We want that. We definitely want a good grip. We want to be able to grab a hold of things and pull. That's totally fine. But when you relax, it should be relaxed, and you should have some give to the tissue rather than it being rock solid all the time. It's great if it's rock solid once you clench your fist, once you contract those muscles, but we don't want it to be rock solid all the time. So what we're going to do is we're going to relieve tension in this tissue. And I always use a 4-step approach when I'm treating something. I will also ice quite a bit so that could technically be a 5th step, but where the tendon's irritated, it's inflamed, ice is a great way to address that and kind of relieve some of the inflammation. But the four steps that we'll cover in depth is we want to warm up the tissue, because warm tissue stretches way better than cold tissue. So if you just go straight to stretching the tissue, yeah, it might help, but you're not going to be getting as good of a stretch as you would have otherwise if the tissue is warm. So I really like to use the buffer to warm up tissue. It's quick, it's easy, it's simple. I mean, there's definitely other ways too. Sauna is great, hot tub is great. Just dynamic movement where you're using the muscles to warm up tissue is also fantastic. But for today, we'll show you with the buffer. So I'm going to turn it on, turn it upside down in my lap, and then I can lay my arm right directly on there. And I'm just gonna add pressure, and I'm gonna work all of that area. This is good for wrist pain too. A lot of times I'll really get into my wrist there and warm that up and get things moving. I can get both the extensor and the flexor side. I'm just gonna take a couple minutes and warm that up. Don't stay in one place too long or it'll start to get tingly, but as long as you're moving, you'll be fine. I'm gonna get up here on my tricep as well. Tricep also crosses the elbow joint and can also contribute to pain. Next thing we're going to do once the tissue is warm is we're going to use some massage tools to scrape the muscle. And obviously not everybody has the massage tools, nor do you need them. I will show you other options out in the gym in a minute, but if you do have them, if they're available, this is a great time to start to break up the tissue. This will also help warm the tissue. So I'm just going to liberally apply lotion and then lightly scrape back and forth, and you'll see it immediately starts to turn red, which is also a sign of unhealthy tissue, and also that you're scraping it with something hard. But anyway, healthier tissue won't turn red as quick, and so we definitely have a problem here that needs to be addressed, and that's great. So I'll just spend a couple minutes scraping, not pushing too hard, just a little bit of pressure, and you should feel that loosening up. Whole forearms getting looser, less tension on the attachment here. I don't go too close to the bone. I don't want to run right over top of the bone with this, but I will get up there onto the tendon a little bit. And you can see how red that turns. All right, so after I scrape for a couple minutes, or if I don't have scrapers, then we'll head out to the gym and show you some different options. So after I have scraped the muscle, or if I don't have the massage tools, which you can find on Amazon, by the way, but you don't need them. You can come out here instead and just roll back and forth on the smooth part of the bar, not on the knurling, because you don't want to tear yourself up. But I'm applying pressure, and I'm just smashing everything along the way, kind of turning my hand a little bit so I can get all of the flexor muscles. And I'm going to run through that a few times. Then what I'll do, and this too, especially if I have scraped, I'm still going to do this. If I haven't scraped and I just rub it out on the barbell, I'll still do this. So this is a massage technique called pin and stretch, where I'm going to apply pressure and then I'm going to apply it with my wrist flexed, and then I'm going to extend. So I'm pinning down the muscle and then I'm taking it through a range of motion to stretch it. So add pressure, extend the wrist, pressure, extend the wrist, pressure, extend the wrist. And you'll really feel it as you start to extend, as the muscle is stretching. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but it's great. It's exactly what you need. So So we warm the tissue, we scrape the tissue if available, if scrapers are available. If not, we're just going to massage it with the barbell, and then we'll go ahead and do the pin and stretch. So I'm starting to do some dynamic stretching here. And after this, then we will statically stretch it. All right, now that we have warmed the tissue and broken up restrictions with the massage, both with the scrapers and or the barbell, now is a good time to statically stretch the tissue because it should be primed, ready to go, ready to stretch. So static stretch, I'm going to find a bench or a chair or a counter or a massage table, and I'm going to place my hand down, fingers pointed toward me, slowly and gently. And once I can lay my hand flat, then I'll start to lean back just a little bit. Should be getting a great stretch all through here. I don't want to overstretch it. I don't want to go too far too fast, but I'm just going to hang out there where I can feel the stretch, but it's not super uncomfortable yet. Should be a tiny bit uncomfortable, but obviously I don't want to damage the muscle by trying to stretch it too far too fast. So I'm just going to hold the stretch there, and I'm going to hold it for a minute. So initially, when you are stretching something, the first, like everybody stretches 20 to 30 seconds, right? That first 20 to 30 seconds, a lot of times the muscle's fighting the stretch. It doesn't want to stretch, and so it resists. And by stretching more long-term, you'll allow the muscle to actually relax and accept that you're stretching it. So I go for a minute here. And I'm not counting, but it doesn't really matter. This is all demonstration. So after that, it is time to strengthen. All right, next step, after we have warmed and massaged and statically stretched the muscles, the problem muscles, the hypertonic extensors, they're doing pretty good. Now, as more of a preventative thing, we're going to strengthen the extensors. So there's different ways to strengthen them. You have probably seen wrist rollers like this in the store. So the thing to remember is if I'm pulling this way, that is strengthening the flexors. If my hands are rolling forward, that is not what I want. I want the opposite. So I'm going to flip it around, and I'm pulling my hand, the back of my hand toward me. That is the motion I need to strengthen the extensors. So, and lowering back down the same way. I'm eccentrically loading. It's an eccentric contraction, but it's still strengthening the flexor or the extensors. So I'm going to go back and forth between those. I'll lower it all the way down, and then again pulling my backs of my hands toward my body is the movement I want. We also have a video how to make one out of PVC pipe on this channel. So same thing, I'm pulling it towards me, rolling it towards me, and then I will lower it down and just go back and forth between those two. So this works for a couple of different reasons. As I mentioned before, there's typically a strength imbalance between the extensors and the flexors. The flexors are generally a lot stronger, so I need to strengthen the extensors to kind of counterbalance that and improve elbow health. The other thing that it does when I'm strengthening the extensors, when I'm using them, it actually helps to relax the flexors through reciprocal inhibition, where working the antagonist muscle relaxes the one on the other side. So from there, those are the 4 steps. We are going to, so we warmed, we massaged, we stretched, and we strengthened the antagonist. And so from there, that's something I would do probably daily until your elbow starts to feel better.